The iFlight iH3 micro quadcopter 3-inch frame. It's a pretty good frame, it's pretty cheap, but there are a couple things that I wish that I had known before I purchased it. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the frame, kind of the build that I did on there, and some of the things that you might want to know before you buy it. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to RC with Adam. My name is Adam. When I first was looking at this frame, what I wanted was a 3-inch quadcopter frame where the camera was well out of the way of the props, or the props were well out of the way of the camera, so I could get some good propless footage. And this works pretty well for that, actually. So now this is my first 3-inch quadcopter build, and I'm not the most expert builder. But we're going to take a look at it, and maybe based on this you'll be able to kind of tell whether this is the right frame for you. Let's get into it. Alright, let's take a look at this frame. In case you don't know, frames are measured in, or they're usually classified by the size of propeller that they can handle. So in this case, from the center of the motor, you're going to have a 3-inch propeller, which is actually you're going to be about 1.5 inches from like a standoff. So that's as large as a propeller you can have on this frame. Now I guess first we should just talk briefly about the stuff that I have attached to the frame, because that was the whole point of having this frame. So I have some of the guts from the Lizard on here. The motors I had to replace, flight test Gremlin motors, Emax Avon propeller. I want to say it's like a 3025. Here we have the camera. This is actually like a 720p onboard HD video recorder, or it will record that through this lens, as well as it being your main flight camera. FlySky receiver here, and then we have this, which is the main component here. This is not from the Eachine Lizard. This is a Flycolor Raptor S Tower 12 amp ESC flight controller, like all-in-one stack. So we've got the ESC PDB down there, and then we have the flight controller up top, and then on top of that is the actual DVR portion of the camera. So you can see it's very tight, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We have the video transmitter that came with the Lizard, the video transmitter antenna that came with the Lizard, little battery connector here, and there's also a buzzer. And it's this build is not the prettiest build. I kind of crammed everything in there, and it just occurred to me that it was kind of silly. I didn't even think of it, but really I should have run these motor wires around behind this standoff here, so that way they wouldn't the wires weren't like sticking out. So to give you a quick size comparison, we have this 3-inch frame. This is a 5-inch frame. It doesn't even fit in the camera frame here. So you have a 5-inch, which is swinging 5-inch propellers, and a 3-inch frame. So pretty big, huge, gigantic difference. 3-inch frames are great, really great for small spaces and just fun flying around. Okay, now let's just get into the frame. So the first thing about the frame, first thing I was wondering was, like, is this frame any good, or is it just like really cheap and crappy? Well, it seems to be pretty good. I don't know if it's like super ultra durable, but it's quite thick. The arms are quite thick. It has let's see, it has 4 of these standoffs here. The plates, it feels quite rigid. This is just one solid piece on the bottom, one solid bottom plate, and all the arms. The biggest thing about this frame that I thought was weird is that it doesn't have centered up holes for a flight controller ESC combo, or specifically the ESC. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. We have 4 holes, or two sets of 4 holes for a 20x20 flight controller or ESC stack right here. So basically front and back, and I guess the idea is that way you keep a really flat build. Of course, if you're gonna go with like that flat of a build, I don't even know why it needs to be this tall anyway. But in any case, but the weird thing is that there aren't any holes for a stack to go in the middle, and the reason why I wanted it in the center was so that way all of the motor wires would reach the ESCs. So, because I didn't want to add extensions to some motors and then have it like forward over here, and then the other thing is, like, then I'd have to take apart, I don't know, it didn't seem to make much sense to not have that option. And then of course on the top here they do have these holes. They do have like 20 by 20 stack size holes right here, but I'm a little confused about why this plate would be on the top. Unless you wanted to like mount it upside down or something, because I thought about that. I thought maybe I'll mount like the flight controller to the top plate, like upside down or something, and then just have all the the ESC wires, the motor wires going to the ESCs. But that would be weird, and then I'd have the motors on this plate, on the bottom plate, and then the the stack on the top plate, and I didn't want that because I wanted to be able to take this top plate off and access everything. So that's just kind of strange. So I just solved that problem by drilling 20 millimeter by 20 millimeter holes in the center of the bottom plate here, and it's a little awkward, but it works okay. The only thing that I wish I had done, and I could go back and do this, is just kind of if I countersunk these holes a little bit. Now the only thing is you're kind of going to be weakening the carbon fiber if you countersink them, but I thought maybe if I just do it a little bit it would help, and that's just so that when I put a battery on here, these little screw heads don't press into the battery. So I'll either put probably some hot glue to raise it above these little heads, or put some foam on the bottom. And then the other thing was just that this is just more because of my specific camera choice. This little camera is very small, and so I had to add spacers. You can see here I had to add spacers to go between these camera plates up in front here, and so that it would fit. And these were just, what were these? These were actually random carbon fiber pieces from the original Lizard frame that I just kind of cut down and had fit in there. And then I got these little, I believe they're like servo mount screws or servo screws, and used those to hold the camera in place. So that works okay. These top plates are pretty loose and they're pretty wiggly if they're not tightened down to the camera. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, but I haven't really noticed any negative effects of that so far. The other thing about the camera plates is that I had to actually grind these down a little bit on the front here, because you could actually see little black nubs on the sides of the screen. Speaking of these these camera plates, they also send in the kit. iFlight also includes these. Now this is like my question for the whole thing, right? So the design of this quadcopter is for a RunCam split type camera, meaning that you have your FPV camera and your onboard HD video recording camera as the same lens, and then you just have it run to the DVR. So that's what this is designed for, and for some reason they include these plates, which are basically the same as these bottom ones, or I mean the same ones I have installed on here, but they have these little horns on the top. And from what I've seen in the pictures, like on their website and stuff, they show another camera up top. So I'm wondering, like, I don't really get. It kind of defeats the whole point, kind of having your split type setup where you're just running one camera. So I don't know if the idea was that if you want to have your HD recording, but there's maybe there's too much lag or something, so you want to have just your regular FPV camera up top and get the feed from both of those. I'm not really sure why that is. I think that's kind of strange. So the thing is that with this stack, you can see this is the actual DVR. I got the little SD card in there, and I kind of didn't have any other place to put this DVR since I had my main stack in the middle. So what I just did is I took the DVR and I put it on the top of this stack, and what I actually had to do was get some shorter standoffs. So these bottom mount standoffs right there on the bottom, I had to get, I happen to have some shorter ones, or I think the shorter ones were actually in the kit. So I took off the original ones from the stack, put those ones on, and then I had just enough room to take the DVR and squeeze it in there, and you can actually see that the little plastic screw pieces are actually coming up just above the plate. So it is a tight fit, and actually that's why I have this little cutoff zip tie, because the little button to actually activate the DVR is right there, and I can't reach it without this little zip tie. So I just take the little zip tie and I press the button like so to start and stop the DVR and stuff. So that, you know, it's tight, it's not super ideal, but it works out okay. And then I decided to not go with a top mount battery, because I just like bottom mount batteries typically. That's just kind of my preference. It seems like you get kind of smoother flying with that. And in case you're wondering, this is the size battery that I've been using. I just got this battery from Race Day Quads, and I'm pretty happy with it. This is a 3-cell battery, 550 milliamp hours. And so yeah, I don't know, I mean, the flight time seems pretty good, but I haven't really gotten to fly this thing a whole lot to really find my ideal battery. But I would say probably something like this, or maybe like an 850 milliamp hour seems like about the right size. But again, you know, it varies a lot based on the motors that you have and the kind of propellers that you have as well. The idea with this quad was basically just to have a small fun to fly quad that I didn't want like crazy killer speeds or, you know, incredible performance out of, but basically it was just fun to fly, and I could capture you know, video that was much better than DVR, and have like a decent flight time, and just kind of get something that I could just kind of I don't know, practice my sort of cinematography skills with. I think these propellers, these are Emax Avant propellers, and I think that they might just be a little bit too much for this size of motor, because the motors get a little bit hotter than I would like, but you know, I don't know, maybe that's just kind of normal. But one thing I will say is that they do seem pretty smooth, and they are very quiet, which is really what I like, because, you know, I'm kind of thinking, you know, flying a 3-inch, you know, maybe you're flying in a more, you know, populated area, and maybe you just don't want to draw as much attention to your flying. You know, you don't want to, you know, bother your neighbors or disrupt anybody when you're flying around, and these seem really great because they're very quiet. And I'm not sure why that is, because you'd see these and you'd think like, man, they look like really aggressive propellers, but they're pretty quiet. So I like it. I think I might try out some bi-blades, see if I can get better flight times. That way I can just kind of cruise around and get some decent quality footage just out of a little 3-inch platform. Boom, there you go. That's the iFlight iH3 frame. Hope this was helpful for you. Maybe you can have a better idea of whether you want to buy this frame or not. Some of the things that I made changes to, and maybe that'll inspire you. And you know what? If you got any tips about building with this frame or other small 3-inch size frames, leave them in the comments below, because I'm sure it would help me or somebody else. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, or if you didn't, just give it a thumbs down. Just be honest, okay? Also, consider subscribing to this channel. Hit that subscribe button if you like this video and you want to see more, or you want to go back and watch the other videos, although you wouldn't have to subscribe to do that, because you could just go back and see those videos. But anyway, subscribe, that would be nice. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.